now when Isman asked around leadership development, I'm starting to reflect. I saw a lot of my clients, they actually first they postponed, right? And then they went into e-learning. They said, okay, what can we do online? They offer a lot of e-learning to their leaders, but the quality is not very good. I mean, learning by video from some guy talking is not very good as a leadership program, right? As you all know. So we had to scramble really fast. How can we recreate this interactive exploration, discussions, sharing between leaders so they can learn together, not sit and look at some e-learning module online. That's pretty much a waste of time. So what I wanted to share then is how can we really use Miro for creating great leadership conversations and more engaging and stimulating discussions rather than e-learning or listening to a Zoom guy talking. So this is just a quick excerpt of some exercises that I wanted to share with you, the potential of how we what we can do in Miro. Imagine now that you would all be in breakouts, of course. Now we're 30 people. Perhaps you would typically be in a breakout of 3 or 4 people. And the scenario here is we want to talk about the corporate values and how as a leader, I can apply the corporate values on an everyday basis, right? This is a very typical topic that we train in our leadership programs. And what you have here on the board is one example of how can we let leaders start to explore the meaning and link the meaning of the corporate values back to their everyday work. Again, imagine you would do this in a smaller group of 3 to 4 people in a breakout. We're 29 people on the call, so it's going to be a little bit chaotic. What you have here in the middle, I have 18 people on the board. I hope that all of you could use the link, or Isman is doing a great screen share, but of course then you cannot drag and drop. In the middle of the board, you can see 4 different corporate values from this customer. They use teamwork, integrity, passion to win, innovative thinking. This is an FMCG company, by the way. I scrambled the details a little bit. And within these 4 values, they identified 4 key behaviors. And they want all the leaders to understand these key behaviors and how you apply into daily work. So here we created a little small exercise where you need to map. There are 12 pictures at the top. You can drag and drop those 12 pictures. You click one time to select the picture, then you click it again, click and hold, and you can drag it to those boxes where it says place picture here. Your task is to try to match up which picture is the best description of each one of those 12 key behaviors. Of course, there's no right or wrong here. It's all how you interpret. And you're supposed to discuss, perhaps not today, because 29 people in one room, we can't really discuss much. So try it out a little bit and see if it works. I've never run it in a group of 29. It's a giant breakout.
Okay, what we can do is, you can, instead of like dragging the pictures, you can also, if there's a picture that you like and you feel like, oh, I want to use that as well, you can copy, Control-C, and paste, Control-V, okay? Is that okay, Martin?
Yes, I think so. I think this, I grouped a little bit of text on top, but you can always, if you're an expert Miro user, you know how to ungroup and copy it. And for those of you that are using Miro a lot, you know, the key challenge for me when I design this is always to lock the correct items and keep them locked and have everything that needs to be touched and moved unlocked. So, I mean, how many times I double check it, I always have some mistakes here and there. Yeah. But that is one of the main challenges when we do kind of an elaborate design that it's not locked properly. And then havoc breaks loose on the templates. Then I'm also, I started to understand the importance of video. So typically something that we would do as well, we would record videos of, for instance, brand champions or change agents. And what I found so nice with Miro is that we so easily can import videos on the board. I had to replace them here, so I put in some YouTube dummies there. But imagine here, this is also an activity that actually could be done asynchronous. It doesn't need to be done in a live meeting, which I also think is something we learned so much about in the last year here, that Zoom fatigue. If we're moving activities to asynchronous, this meaning you can do it at your own pace, at your own time, let's say as a preparation, then sharing a board like this a week before a live meeting is a great way to prepare everyone. You can go into the Miro board at your own time. You can look at the videos. You can write the comments there. You can sort the cards. You can agree and disagree with adding sticky notes. So,
yep, Martin. Can I pause you there for a bit? I want to reach out to our audience. Does anybody have any question for Martin in sense of having a look at the board, having moved around the space? If you have any quick thoughts or a question or comment on what you're seeing here.
I have a question though, Martin. Sorry, James. How many people will go into this board and do this activity?
It can be as many as we can host,
Martin,
but I'm using breakout rooms then. So definitely use breakout rooms, like 3, 4, 5 people in one room, because we want to stimulate the conversation, right? Not like today when you all do it quietly.
So in that case, you will have a different board, like the part 1 board, there will be a few. This is just one, so all of us go here. But if you were to have this in a breakout room, then you will have a different board. So different group will go on a different board,
yes,
right?
I would just duplicate them up to the number of breakouts.
I love the feel of the board because it feels so professional. It's not very noisy. It has a very nice color, which makes me feel like, oh, this is really nice. I don't feel it's very, because you don't use strong color. Is this a corporate color of this organization or just by design that this is what you choose?
This is kind of, I have to stick to the Miro kind of color palette because I don't want to kind of use too much pictures to reduce the downloading time. But with some clients, it's so important that we use the corporate branding and they would use their colors, their logos, and then I would create the unique palette for that.
Super. I love it. Thank you so much, Martin.
Thank you, Narul.
That's an interesting thought. Oh, yes, Tian.
No, just it's Martin. I think it's impressive work because, when Martin designed this, right, I thought he's managed to bring the multi-sensory approach, right, in one board, right? There's visual, sensory, there are words, there are graphic, and there are videos. And I think all these come together and create a very strong engagement. And I love it, Martin. I just think this is very impressive.
Great, thank you. You know what? Do you like to move to part 2? Because I think part 2, then you move a little bit, go a little bit to the right. This is where you can try. I created something like, let's not talk about the theory of the values. Let's talk about how we practice the values every day, especially as leaders. So I created kind of scenarios. And typically we use, let's say, 10 to 12 scenarios. In this case, I have only 4 of them here. And you can try all 4, or some of you can try the number 1. Someone could start with number 4, some of you number 2. You have a scenario there, the picture and the situation. Read the situation, and then you decide, what would you do in this situation? Would you choose A or B option? You see, you have the cards there saying 2A, 2B, or 3A, 3B. And then you take the orange dot vote, and you drag it into that square under A or B option to show, would you vote A or would you vote B?
Let's do this. Martin, do you want to put in a timer, a clock?
I can put a little bit of timer here.
Yeah, let's try this.
Hopefully I choose a different, I choose a different song than you.
those.
And after voting, you can go down and you can look at the post-it notes. You know, in theory, it's pretty easy to answer, and most leaders, they know what is the right answer sometime, but in reality, we might not do the right thing. Write something in the sticky notes that might block or stop leaders from doing the right things in this specific situation. In theory, they know we should do A, but we might not always do A. What might be blocking a leader? What might be stopping a leader?
Question for Martin. What was the impact of these activities when you ran it with your client? What was the feedback? What was the insight that you gathered from that experience?
Of course, it's great. I mean, everybody loves to think by themselves, to explore by themselves, to not only listen, especially a topic like this. You know, corporate culture can be super boring. It can be so abstract. And I know all of you on this call, you know Miro already, but I think if you're working in a big old style organization, even today, this is really innovative for them to be able to do something like this. So I think the feedback from the end user is really, really good. Of course, we always have the problem with the onboarding and stuff like this, but that's the same as most of us are going through. And yeah, and I think moving into hybrid, I think I'm going to push my clients to use Miro even with face-to-face participants, so that we can have the flexibility. Some people might join remote, some people might be sitting in the same room, but no more whiteboards, no more flip charts. Everybody bring your laptop. We're going to have a joint Miro board, just to have the flexibility.
That is a great insight. I want to ask the audience in the room as well. Have you actually used Miro, any of you, anywhere in the world, have you ever used Miro in a hybrid environment? Anybody has such an experience? Darwin, I can see you like you're nodding your head. You want to share us a bit? Martin, if you could kind of like pause the music on this so that we could hear.
Yes, done.
Oh, I was nodding for the bossa nova beat. No. I was just kidding. Yeah, just recently, like I was in a room with 5 leaders, and we were on the Miro board, all of them, and then another remote group was in another location, 5 of them in that same place. So kind of like hybrid. It feels weird because I have, as a facilitator of the process, I have to be mindful of that I'm present with the group, and then I have to look at the screen, a big screen, in order to see what the others are doing, or at least what the body language are doing, and so that's the weird thing. Like I'm also conscious that they're in Miro. I see all of them, but it's not so much in Miro, but more of like making sure that you are present in the room and at the same time present in the virtual space with other groups.
I can understand it can be a bit confusing as well. Like I mean,
no, I was like kind of like, oh my gosh, this is this is hard.
Yeah, interesting. And what was the impact of that? I mean, was there feedback in terms of that approach, using Miro both physically and digitally in the same environment?
I think all of us, including me, were kind of like feeling our way. But after a few minutes, we kind of like went into the groove of like, okay, this is sort of like the unsaid, unstated terms of engagement, and we made it work. I think to the credit of the client team, they were like, oh, okay, this is how we should do it. Quick learning, I guess.
Thank you, Darren. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Martin?
Yeah, I think it's so much for me. I had different experiences with different clients. Someone, they are still waiting to get back face to face, and they are still reluctant. But I think now, when I say I'm kind of trying to educate or force or convince more and more clients, just give everybody equal access. What's happening here in Thailand with a lot of clients, they also want to give the flexibility to people. You can choose. If you want to come to the office today, you can come or not. If you want to join this workshop, If you feel safe enough, join face-to-face. If you're not feel safe, then join remotely. So we need to kind of be digital. We need to be in the cloud.
Yeah, and you sound like that's like the right approach when you want to be inclusive, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Was that a question? Yes, James.
So just on the hybrid thing, I think it's a really interesting conversation. I think my experience so far with hybrid sessions is that there is always a gradient in participation. Either the virtual guys are going to lose out or the in-room guys are going to lose out. It's very, very difficult to balance both sets equally. And I think it comes down to very simple things like camera angles on your video conferencing platform. I think some of you have already referred to as I use Remo quite a lot. That's quite a good way of doing it with some virtual tables and some physical tables in that space. But I do think that we still have a long way to go in terms of providing an equal experience for people in the room and not in the room. I think it's challenging. I've often started with with hybrid events to start off with, and I find myself slowly but surely encouraging the client to go either fully virtual or fully in room, because I think it's a tough balancing act with the technology we have at the moment. But that's just my learning so far.
That is a great insight. I used to do a bit of team coaching and from the agile space, and then for a distributed team. So some of them were in London, some in Singapore. I was in the room with the team in Singapore, and we did lots of fun activities like throwing paper airplanes and doing Lego and stuff. And I do feel bad for the team in London, and they did not get to fully participate. On hindsight, like with COVID, like, oh my God, that was such a bad choice of designing the experience. It wasn't equal for everyone. So yeah. Any other thoughts in the room on this? On how do you bridge that that experience for people who are in a hybrid mode? Some in your office, some at home, or anybody in the room who want to share an experience? Timothy.
Can I?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just chip in just my 10 cents. Very similar to my experience, very similar to James. I think it's really hard to design for both virtual and face-to-face. And it happened to me in the context of a university when I delivered the workshop. I just find it not effective, but I had a hybrid experience of running a design sprint for 4 weeks. So the first 2 was fully virtual. And then we have 1 full day of meeting face-to-face and then virtual again. And that works really well because I can continue to use the same Miro board throughout the entire journey. So we start with 2 weeks online. And so the board is kind of built up. And then in the actual session, I bring up the board on the screen, and then we still be able to capture some of the activities in person and then put it back on the board, and then continue the discussion the week after. So I think that's that continuation, but the environment is somewhat either virtual or face-to-face. So we don't mix it together. Yeah.
I think Tim brought up a great point. I don't think this is a natural way of working, right? In fact, for most people as well. But what Tim brought up is the fact that using something like Miro, Jamboard, or whatever it is a choice. There's a certain form of consistency from one event to another event. The board is the same, the materials are the same, the thoughts are the same, while the environment might change, right? I think that's one way to look at it.
Can I add on your point? I'm always thinking about, since I totally agree that it's a big issue to try to do great hybrid events because audio, for instance, is so difficult. And I'm always trying to think about how can I minimize the live part, the synchronous part, and how can I now design the whole leadership development journey built more on the asynchronous. So we don't need to be together. There is no hybrid. I'm trying to kind of make the hybrid problem smaller in the whole solution by moving much more to asynchronous and or peer-to-peer communication, or where they need to fix their own meetings, the team, they can work in project groups, etc. And then we save the live session to some big events, and we can manage all the logistics because it needs a lot of preparation, right?
Great insight.
So that's how I think about it.
Thank you, Martin.
When I hear you say, Martin, I remember IKEA model, which is self-directed experience. You design it in a way that people just go from one station to another, and then you go to the end. Yeah.
But the point, I think, for especially leader development, we want to have the conversation. So we still don't want to have it like an individual journey totally, right? We need to have these points where people connect together and make sense together, right? So we need to make like an IKEA station by station, but then there needs to be some sort of a stop where people gather and make sense and share.
Thank you.
But I think it's also a great analogy. Thanks, Tim.
Great idea. Thank you. So let's move on. So thank you, Martin, for preparing the spaces for you guys to try. There's so much on there that we could decode and review. Any closing words for your activity, Martin, before we move on to our next guest?
Thank you, everyone. And please prepare more challenging questions.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Okay, I promised that we're gonna hear from Amir, because I was so impressed to what he was doing in his job, that he took on a challenging job, and I truly wanted Amir to be here and to share with us from his perspective. So Amir is going to bring in his from the client side, or as a consultant, we call it the client side perspective or the in-house perspective. Okay, let me just bring in the Miro board. So Amir, anytime you're ready, let me know. How should we do it?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. So yeah, a lot of the materials that I'm sharing here is not interactive like what Martin did because of proprietary issues or not. So, but I'm leaving it here so you guys can just have an idea what to do about when you engage and you do certain things as leaders. So yeah, we can start now.
Okay, I'm already sharing the Miro board for Amir's presentation in Zoom, and the Zoom board the Miro board for Amir's presentation is already in the Zoom chat. Okay, Amir, feel free.
All right. So thanks everyone. So let's go to the next slide. Just introducing myself. So my name is Amir Shazlan. I've been working in software engineering since the start of my career. I started with a startup, and I move on to some medium-sized company called Messeniaga. Then I moved to the banks. I moved to telcos. I moved to recruitment agency. Now I'm with Petronas. So in Petronas, I work as the head of software engineering, where I manage a team of about 20-ish people, some permanent, some contractors. But it's a big jump from my previous company where I just managed about 4 or 5 people. But I'm enjoying the work. I was not supposed to be picking up this role, head of software engineering. I was supposed to go there and be just a simple test lead, lead person, but somehow or other that position was filled and I was pushed upwards immediately on the first day of my job to this role. But I'm thankful for all the challenges I've been facing and also learning a lot. Besides doing all this, I also have a meetup group called Meetups for the Ministry of Testing Kuala Lumpur. So over here, I do monthly meetups with all the testers within Kuala Lumpur and beyond as well, since we are fully online. So we do sharing, we do all the presentations to learn and stuff about testing. So that's a nutshell what I am. My tagline there is like I collaborate with people to build better software. So because I think that's in a nutshell what I do actually. Yeah. I move on to the next slide. So okay, so topic of leadership. I think there's many books written. There's many people providing ways to do leadership. But to me, this acronym leaders is quite apt to show what a leader should do. In Petronas we have it's a huge organization. I think 35,000 at the last count. So we have a lot of leaders over here preaching about different styles of leadership, which I think can be applied in different circumstances, different situations. But at the core of it, all these leaders acronym does play a part. Okay, so let's go to the first acronym, L. L for learning. So to me, a leader must always be constantly learning. A leader should not be smarter than the people they lead. In fact, to me, it should be vice versa. They should learn more from the people whom they lead, because certainly they are there to sometimes show us the way to the work. So we need to be humble and learn from them as well. So when I came into Petronas, the organization was actually in full remote working mode. And it's the first time in the whole of the company's history that the KLCC Petronas Twin Towers was completely evacuated, save for only the critical people in there. So it was totally empty and people had trouble adjusting to this fully remote work mode, I would say. So I came in, I actually only met my boss physically once, and after that it's all virtual. So I had to jump in during these times. I actually had to walk through and know people and build relationships all virtually, remotely. So that's why I had to find a way to share my ideas fast and quickly. And that's why I learned about Miro. What you see on screen is the Miro Academy, where they just recently introduced bite-sized courses in planning and trying to learn how to use Miro. So I encourage everyone here who is just new to Miro to jump in and learn how to use Miro within this course, Miro Academy link. You can just Google about it, okay? But that's the first thing that a leader should do. They should always be open to learning and open to experiencing knowledge with other people as well. Right, let's move on to the next one. All right, second thing is to empower. A leader should always empower their people. Empower is, to me, is around them, not just people below them. Can be your peers as well as your outward reporting bosses. So what you see here is actually, I'm not sure if you can zoom in. Yeah, thanks Ismail for zooming in. But this is actually a KPI board, okay? So Petronas has a system that, every company has their own performance evaluation systems. They all these systems actually in Petronas live in Excel. We submit our KPIs by Excel, and to me it's restricting because it doesn't give the full breadth and depth of the conversation that we should have with our direct reports, with our outward managers. So that's why I introduced Miro. I actually pulled out all these KPIs from the Excel and just put it into boxes you see over here. But what it does is that we try to visualize all this in a more cohesive manner. I put the group KPIs as well in there. I took from whatever I have in presentation slides. I put the company beliefs in there, our PCBs, what I call Petronas cultural beliefs. I also put organization points in there because I want everyone to have a wholesome view of what we are working with. It's not just about something we see in Excel. We should also feel and experience about that. And also put their notes about the people I'm managing, the people I'm reporting to as well. Because I want to have a wholesome conversation about what you want to do beyond this KPI, what are your career goals? Can I help you to achieve that within the confines and range of the KPIs that the company gives to you? So that's why that is how I use Miro to empower the team to have more bigger conversations than just uploading my performance review in Excel, which is very limiting. So that's how I empower people around me as a leader. Right. Let's go to the next slide, which is I think adapt. So I'm working as a head of software engineering. I actually deal with a lot of products, a lot of stakeholders, business units who are involved in the outcomes of this product. So one of the things I need to constantly do as a leader is to adapt, to have an open mind about what their wishes are and what they do. So how I use Miro in this instance is actually to map up all these changing viewpoints and try to come to a conclusion together where we are. So what you see here is an impact mapping example. impact mapping method to understand how this tool that we're building can achieve the goals of the business. So that's why I map up all these goals, and then from there we try to drill down in detail what this software should do and to whom it should benefit. That's why you see the red items are the details that we should put in the software and what is to be achieved. You know, what is the detailed outcome that they should all these different personas should achieve in using this tool. And in the end, what's the bigger goal that they should achieve towards using this tool. So I use this tool, Miro, to adapt to all of these changing viewpoints within trying to build a product. There are also things I use to other models I use to map the wishes of the users. But by and large, it's all based on Miro because it encourages and facilitates group conversations, like what we had just now. Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. Delegate. Okay. So Delegate, what you see here is a spectrum of all. This is a snippet of what applications are managed in Petronas. There's a whole lot of applications and have differing teams trying to manage all these different products. So what I do over here is to just map out the universe that I am in, and then from there I actually have delegation conversations with my team to say, okay, you take this part and what we should do with this part. The red ones are things that we are supposed to migrate to the cloud soon. So that's where we have some conversations about who is going to do this work at this part and how you're going to do it. Just a general advice, because after that, I will empower people to achieve the goals within the confines of how they're going to do it. So that how we're going to do it is up to them, but as long as we achieve the goal, that's what we do. So that's how I delegate. And I use Miro to just map up all this visually, because to me, it's just too much to just, again, map out in an Excel sheet. So why not use Miro? Yeah.
Great choice.
So yeah. All right, next one is, I think, E, engage. Okay, so over here, again, similar to the, I think, Adapt's example. What you see here is a persona mapping exercise in building a product. At the first instance, I think this is one of the very first times I use Miro to engage the business end users. People who don't know how to build software, and they want to give the requirements. So all this while they've been asked to come into meetings and they speak. But in this instance, I actually asked them to, let's come in a meeting, into this meeting virtually, but you just do the talking by just using all the sticky notes and putting into all the boxes. So after like 5 minutes explanation, I give them the timer, similar to how Martin just play music and put timers, and then they went on to the merry ways and just put in all the details on their own. And after that, we spent this exercise took about 20 minutes, but we spent about 1.5 hours to explain, for people to explain what they put in there, give their viewpoints. So at the end of it, they were very happy that these two came along. They were like, wow, I never knew that this could be an exciting thing to talk about. I thought it's going to be dry, I know, boring, but all this exposes all the other parties thinking, and we are able to come on the same page. So this is the first time I used Miro, and I saw the value of Miro. So immediately after this first couple of exercises, I actually said, why not I just pay the subscription instead of using the trial version. So that's how I managed to engage people around me using Miro. Last couple of acronyms. Next one is to reflect. So one of the things I use Miro is to reflect on the activities we've done. This is an example of how I use Miro to track the progress of people within all these sticky notes applications. So what we were doing with the application, we're tracking, we're having discussions, reflecting on what we've done last week and what we're going to do this week. So like in a Scrum Agile mode kind of working. So again, this is a very visual tool. In Petronas, people used to track this in Excel again. So I've just pulled it out and have a more wholesome conversation within using this tool. Yeah. So I think the last part is serve. So all I'm doing here is to bring people together. aligning with the Petronas cultural belief which is what our company ethos in trying to deliver better customer focused solutions, trying to innovate. Even a simple app using Miro is, to me, to Petronas people, is quite eye opener. So I think I'm innovating in that part. I'm trying to bring new changes, new ways of working. So this is how I serve the organization as leader. Yeah. The last slide is actually what my secret weapon is. In all this, I use Miro, but actually my secret weapon is not Miro, it's Miroverse. Miroverse is actually a collection of ready-built templates, which I can just go in and jump in and just use immediately without any having to build all the boxes, because it's just ready and populated. So if you guys click on the link that I think Ismail just shared, you can see there's multitudes of templates that you can use immediately within 5 minutes. In fact, actually, this today I had a business model conversation where I just went into Miroverse, I just typed in business model canvas, and within a couple of minutes, people were already contributing, putting sticky notes after I explained how it's to be used. So that's my secret weapon actually. It's not Miro, it's actually Miroverse. Yeah. With that, I think I overshot my time. So I'm opening the floor to any questions or queries that people have regarding this matter. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's ask for questions.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a big fan of the work that Amir is doing in using Miro. Oh, by the way, apparently like the Petronas corporate account is actually for this is actually in Mural, but
Yeah.
being the rebel that he is using Miro because obviously it's probably a better product. But
Yeah.
let's hear questions from those who may have questions in terms of Amir's approach, or if you have anything to ask. Let me start with, I do have one question, Amir. Let me just go back to, was it Learn or what? It was Empower, right?
Yeah.
So when you first started to use Miro, because you said, in the Empower space, there are KPIs, right? The company's KPIs, there's people's KPIs, and you expose this to your team members, to your group members. What was the initial reaction? Was it, what were they thinking? Was they feeling threatened? Were they feeling like, oh my God, this is like so transparent? I think Martin has the same question as well. How does your team handle this kind of openness and transparency? To you, Martin. Sorry, to you, Amir.
Yeah. So I think everyone has, in terms of the roles, KPIs, everyone has the same things. How they're going to achieve it is different. But when I open up the space, it gives ideas to people on how they can do the same thing that person A is doing to achieve their goals. So we can have some common points to start with in terms of trying to translate our daily actions to the goals that we achieve. So that I think has helped people to see, and improve their way of working. So to me, that's how opening up this and making it transparent to everyone appears to resolve the issue of moving forward, because some of the goals is actually group goals, things that people have to do. But to me, if we open it up and say how you can play a part in these group goals, for instance, I think one of the goals financially is to reduce cost by 10%. When people look at that, they say 10% and it's a group goal. Like, how do I fit into doing this? But I just explained to them, when I open this up, I lay this down, I explain to them, how can you achieve this 10% goal is actually by reducing the support tickets that come to you. So if you say, go to user and say, resolve the issue with them having to open a ticket, that's already a win, a reduction of costs, because people don't have to open a ticket, there's cost in opening a ticket. So you reduce the cost already. So when I have that conversation, one person and the other person sees and is informed of the same, then it goes along and they can get an idea of how they can achieve that in the daily work. So,
Right.
so yeah, that's an example of how laying this out, making it open, contributes to better outcomes. Yeah.
And sounds like efficiency, productivity as well, right?
Yeah. But my intention was not that, actually, not about the KPI. Actually, to me, my main goal is actually to know the person and what their career goals are, because in IT, people move around a lot. Sometimes they want to stay here and just learn things. So while you are here, how can I help you? That's why things on the right plays a far more important part than what the KPIs are to me. Yeah.
Right. So again, people develop. Yeah. There's a question from Khalid. How was the learning curve in your attendees? I think you're referring to Amir's team members. How was the learning curve in your attendees from a scale of I don't know how to use 1 to 10, very easy to use?
I think they picked up quite well, because actually I just say, okay, here's my template. Here's your KPI. You need to put the KPI into your Miro board. I just give that broad brush, and it's like 5-minute intro on how to use Miro. And after that, they went on the merry ways. I think the biggest issue that they face is that their boxes are always moving because they don't know how to lock the boxes. But that's a simple fix. And I just show them, okay, you need to lock this, but if you want to write on this, you just unlock, But beyond that, they took it very well. They can put in points. They can put in all the things they want to discuss. The colored boxes, yellow, I think beige, I don't know, black colored boxes, all the agendas. So whenever we want to set up our meetings, they put the boxes there. I can look, okay, this is what I want to talk about today. And then, they all put in their notes very well. So I think it's not a huge learning curve. Yeah.
That's good to know. It's good to know it's not a huge learning curve for people in organizations. Thank you, Amir.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much, Amir. Truly appreciate it. So we'll try our best to bring all the guest speakers to come back at the end for a short Q&A. But for now, let's move on to James. James, are you ready to have us in your Miro board? So again, we have another Miro board that we can go to.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, folks. Yeah, I want to just do a quick little intro, and then I will share a board with you. I don't know if any of you, do you know strategy tools? Any of you belong to strategy tools or know strategy tools?
Joshua.
Yes,
Robert.
yes, I'm strategy tools certified.
Yeah, so I'm going to share some of the strategy tool stuff with you today. Specifically the amazing work that strategy tools have done in terms of creating full business simulations in Miro. Robert, you would know Transform and some of the others. So I want to share that with you, and if there is time, I'd also like to show you how we use some of the canvases and so forth in a process. For those of you who are new to strategy tools, it is a network, I guess, of people across the world who want to work differently with strategy. If you're interested, I've popped the link into the chat there where you can go and have a look. And I want to show you, if you've not seen this before, I'll show you just a quick 1-minute video of how strategy tools does business simulations specifically for leadership development and digital transformation, built 100% in Miro. I think it's probably one of the most ambitious pieces of work I've ever seen in Miro. So I just want to quickly share a quick video, if that's okay, Isman.
Yes, so you have control, James.
All right, let me find the right tab and I'll go full screen. So here's a 1-minute overview.
The world of strategy is changing, accelerated by COVID-19. Digital remote learning has become the new normal. It is time to rethink how we learn and teach strategy in the digital age. How can we redesign executive education for a digital age? How can we teach in a more interactive and engaging way? How can new visual strategy solutions shape the future of management education? These are the questions that we have been exploring, and this is why we developed Transform Digital to change how we teach and learn strategy, innovation, and transformation in a complete digital age.
So let me stop sharing. So that is a quick overview of probably one of the most ambitious pieces of work I have ever seen done in Miro in my life. I will share the link for you. And this has been picked up by the likes of Duke University, quite a few different organizations. And you can have a look at this specific tool if you like on the strategy tool site. I'll send you the link as well. And you could see Chris sitting there with a 7 different monitor setup and running it. And I'm going to just invite you into the Strategy Tools Transform board. And we're going to just play around a little bit. Obviously, there's no time to do a full session today. Chris and the team run these things sometimes for 8 to 10 hours at a time virtually. So they have a lot of resilience when they do that. So I'm going to just share the link into the chat, and then I'll also screen share and just show you a little bit of how it works. And if there's a bit of time, I'll show you also how we integrate some of the Strategy Tools thinking, some of the canvases and so forth in whole strategy processes that we map out on Miro as well. And I want to just add to what Martin has said earlier as well, is that one of the nice things is that, you know, we are so used to being confined to a single moment in time to do strategy, to do learning, to do all these kinds of things. I think one of the beauties of running a virtual whiteboard such as Miro is that you can truly kind of stretch this out over quite a few days, right? So you can actually work. This is what a transform board looks like. Now, you saw very quickly in the video just how complex it can be, and you can see here. I can just quickly share my screen, then we're in the same place, if that's okay, Isman.
I can follow you on the board.
Okay, so we're going to do it straight on the board. Okay, perfect. So here we have a broad transform board, and you can see we have the various teams. Team 1, 2, 3. You got 5, 6, 7 on the sides, and in the middle you have the space where it all happens, almost like a Monopoly board kind of a space. This space at the bottom is where the facilitator works, and you can see here's like a market space where we do like Wall Street info, market kind of market assessments and so forth. So what we have here, and I've created a couple of little characters here, and maybe if 3 of you want to, or 4 of you each want to grab a quick character, you can do that. And let's do a quick roll of the dice. So each person can claim 1 character. I see Isman's grabbed 1 there. There's a couple more characters there which you can take. I see Robert's got 1 as well. Fantastic. And put them all in the start area, which is there where we start, where they are at the moment. And what we can do is we can roll the dice. And based on the roll of the dice, we would then fall on a specific area of the board. And let's say this one here is your dice that's being rolled, Timothy. So let's see how many you get. Okay, it looks like right, 4, Timothy. So you can move 4 shots forward, 4 steps forward. Move your little character forward.
Which way is
okay? Now you can, yeah. Now you can choose a core or an explore or growth business model, right? And I'm not going to do it right now, but what I would then go down here is I will find a core business model, which I will put in the drop zone for you. This is locked at the moment, and it will then pop into the what we call the drop zone, and you will pick that up, and that will be a whole new business model that you can put into practice and start using in your business to make money. Okay. So, well done. That was a good thing. And the idea, of course, is to work with business model innovation. The next person who can go is Robert. Robert, if you want to go, I'm going to start the dice and let it roll for a little bit. And let's see what you come up with. And there we go. 3 steps. Oh, you get a boom card. You move your 3 steps forward, you get a boom card. And boom cards are really good stuff to have. Here we have a boom card. I can see that this has been locked down, so I can't actually unlock it at the moment. This is a board that I'm just borrowing from. But a boom card in general is one super kind of boost for your business in their transformation efforts. You get a bright new breakthrough, you get something quite incredible happening to your business, gets dropped in the drop zone, and once again you can start adding to that to kind of create more money. All right, let's do one more round. Who is here? Who's got a little character that they want to? Joshua, do you want to grab one of those? And let's get you to move forward. Let's see how many spaces you get with the dice. And 4 as well. So that you get another core growth business model. And you can see how you go through this process. There's a lot of luck. But if we look, for example, at what's already here in the boom area, a typical boom example would be you can do a pitch session to present your idea. You can either then, if the facilitator agrees, you get 1 M pitch reward, or you rather do it next time, you get a strategy coach on board, you'll get some visionary leadership, and all of these cards are put in a drop zone. Each one of the team members grab that, and they then start doing their financials at the end of every period. Here's an example for a business model, a future fit model, 500,000 to operate, 1 M in revenue. And if we look at what one of these team areas looks like, this is a drop zone. So what the facilitator would simply do is they would pop this card. Using the Building a Transformation Company framework, you're able to accelerate your transformation program. And in that way, you pick up your cards, and you then, when you're finished taking the input, you put them in the bin. And let me show you what a team area looks like. Here's a bunch of people who are working together. They've got the idea of their company. Their company is called Car Wagon. They've got a starting cash. They've got a team that they work with. And here you can see they've got some analyst ratings, where the analysts give them a rating on their company. They've got some cash lying around here. And here they will do their financials every quarter, and they will work out their market capitalization, what their market is worth on the stock exchange. And here they would put their business models. And as you would know, Robert would know, the core growth and explore model, you would put your core business models there, and every business model you have will create revenue and create value for you. And you can look at your pipeline, you could look at the market opportunities, and these are all canvases that are part of the Strategy Tools environment. So the way that Strategy Tools does this, and which I think is amazing what Chris has done, is they have connected their canvases to a game, which then becomes an executive development process, which helps you understand digital transformation against a real set of financials, but then also introduces all the strategy canvases that you can use. And Robert would be able to share with you as well. You become an accredited strategy coach, and you can use all these canvases. And there's a really beautiful connection between Miro and the canvases, because you can pop them on a process very easily, build out a whole strategy or a leadership development program, and actually get your teams to work on them, and finally bring them together. Any questions or comments?
There's a question from Halit. Is that boom card flippable?
Yeah, so in its normal format, apologies, I just borrowed this from Chris. So that would be the back. So you take a risk, you'll pick up the card, and on the front you'll get this type of boom card, financial market uptick, get 2 analyst rating cards. So it's exactly like a Monopoly game, and you can actually flip over the cards from one side to the other. Other questions, comments?
I would say one thing that I've done working just pretty lightly with the strategy tool worksheets and Miro, I've not necessarily cheated, but I've just put the PDF itself on there and then built off of it. So easily we could recreate using Miro, but it's so easy just to slap one of those worksheets up there and just go from there. And in the drop of a hat, you know, if you're short on time.
Actually, the second board that I've prepared for you guys, I'll show you how I've done exactly that to build a bit of a strategy process. But before we run out of time and before we move to the strategy board, any questions or comments about the way that this business simulation was built in Miro? I think it's probably one of the most ambitious pieces of work I've seen in Miro for quite a while.
Or yes, a question in the room?
Any questions or comments?
If I may.
Yes,
Yeah.
Khalid.
Yeah. How long did this started from ground zero to building up all this? I just want to see the timeline here, because this is like you say, this is huge. And there's a lot of planning work around this. And how many people plan this?
Yeah, so Chris and them had this as a physical board game. I actually have one in my cupboard here. It looks a lot like a Monopoly game with a whole set of cards and everything like that. And what they then did is they actually digitized this with a team. They've got about 4 or 5 people. It probably took them, I would imagine, probably about 6 months to put this together in Miro. And to basically transform all of the elements of the physical board game into a Miro board, which allows it to be played quite easily. Isman, I don't know, 3-4 minutes. I don't think we need a lot of time. I just want to give a quick example on the other board of how many facilitators. Normally 2 folks. There's normally Chris, who does the main facilitation, or one of the accredited facilitators, and then you've got another person who just manages the drop zones and gives the people their cash and so forth from the facilitator area. Cool. So that's a quick overview. I can also share with you a video about how Duke University uses this. If you want to see how they, yeah, we'll go for it right now. So here is a board using a whole lot of strategy tools processes. This is a board that I have developed and designed for a client. And it's not as elegant and as beautiful as Martin's, but you can see here, here's the whole story of the organization. So here's the journey that we're going to go on. What is strategy today? So what is our team charter? What do we bring? What is our mission, vision, purpose? What the world now and next? And you can see here, as you go through this board, you have first working with another person, normally 2 people on a board. And you can see here, I've created a little a thing called My Board, where you quite simply drag onto the board. How do I feel about this? I feel excited. For example, I feel excited about this specific board, and I can just take that little emoji and I can click on it and I can add it to the board. And I can then also add 3 questions, 3 comments, and 3 contributions. The first is one that this is exactly what Robert was talking about. Put your 2 perspectives on strategy on the board, create a frame where people can reflect on that. Then I had a different tool that I use quite often, which is the hybrid team canvas, which is a great way for people to start thinking about how they collaborate together. I also used a light version of something that I actually found in the Miroverse, which is a way of actually talking about how you collaborate, what is your work style. Then you can see here's a canvas also by strategy tools. It's called the Industry Shifts Map, where you can actually start noting the biggest shifts in your business. How well prepared are you for them? And then here, this is quite a useful one. This is a mission, vision, and vision statement canvas, which you can get people to work on. And you see here, I've added a little bit of content from Simon Sinek about, start with why, the golden circle. I've also embedded his famous TED talk here. So what I do with this process, which starts through this process, then goes through 3 horizons on strategy, market opportunity canvas, another one which is the innovation pyramid. And I actually get people to do all of this first in pairs. So I will give them each, for 2 people, a swim lane like this, where they go through this whole process and drag from the sideboards onto the board, how they feel about it, their thoughts, their perspectives. And what I then do is when I pull them all together, I delete all the remaining empty boards. I bring them all together in one space, and we then work on a way of bringing all these ideas together in terms of building a strategy process together. So those are 2 very, very quick kind of perspectives on how you can use Miro on the one hand for quite advanced business simulations and executive development, and here to create a collaborative strategy process by just building it on the board, getting people to collaborate and share some of their content. So that's 4 minutes to go. Time for some questions.
Thank you, James. Any questions from the room in terms of? Oh wow, it's a long. Okay. Anybody else? Any question in the room while we read the question from Hansa? Some people. Let me read this. Some people don't have willingness to learn new platform, not familiar with them. Can you give us some tips on how to handle this kind of people? Let's pause there for a bit. I guess let's open up to James, Martin, and Amir. Any thoughts on this?
I think there's a mindset issue, but I think what I've also learned, and that's something that Amir has also shared, is really get people to do the little introductory course on the Miro Academy, get people familiar with the boards. I think we who work with these things often, we don't realize just how bewildering it can be for people to be on a board for the first time. The navigation doesn't work. Things like things don't work the way you want them to work. You drag things around. So part of it is the way you set up the board so that it's mostly locked down. That's what Martin says as well. So you can't screw it up too badly. But a part of it is just to take it slowly. Give people the time to get used to the board. That'll be my kind of sense.
Yeah, I concur with that as well. I think in Petronas, especially 35,000 people who used to seeing face-to-face interactions, so they were quite lost. How to contribute. They're still relying on Excel, PowerPoints. We shifted around, and at the same time, I think when I came in, they just introduced Teams as well. So there's another communication layer to deal with. So what I think we should do, not just Miro in general, but all general new technologies, is that we just give people time and space to experience them. And then from there, they can make up their own mind how to navigate, how to traverse, and finally how to use this in their daily jobs. Yeah.
Martin.
Yeah, I just want to share. I made one huge mistake for a client last year when we had executives, and 2 executives, they felt left behind because they didn't pick up quick enough. And I didn't recognize that fast enough. And it hit me back so hard. So right now, I really take the time, and for those that are already experienced with Miro, they get on board very fast, but I make sure that I have even sometime individual small coaching session, if it's an executive, and offer them a clinic to try a week or 2 before, to make sure everybody got to have the same, be empowered, right? It's so disempowering if somebody feel lost out. And I made a huge mistake on that last year. So that is something I learned hard.
Thank you, Martin. I've got a story of my own, but anybody else in the room has any such experience in terms of getting people to be comfortable with the platform? Anybody else in the audience? Yes, Halit.
Yeah, I just recently used it on my sales, and out of 5, 1 has to be, I have to keep coaching her on how to use it, how to zoom in and zoom out, because her main feedback was the texts are too small. The texts are too small. So on the first day, I taught her how to zoom in, quickest way to zoom in, which is to scroll the mouse and all that. Then the second day, she asked the same question. The third day, she asked the same question. So I felt that I missed out on the opportunity to really do the onboarding with them at least 1 week or 2 weeks before the whole thing goes on. Yeah.
Thank you for all that insights and sharing of your experience. Ari.
Yeah, hi, Esman. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of say that, today's session really gave us all a view of the different designs. I think Martin's board gave us a very Apple kind of feel. Amir's board is very practical, and James' board is Nuru's amazing. It just blows your mind. So kind of related to the point that you're talking about is I just wanted to find out from the board designers, what is your top consideration such that the board is engaging but not too overwhelming? Because I think that's kind of also part of the contributes to the mindset, right? How do we as board designers make it engaging but not too overwhelming still? Any thoughts?
Can I go first? Because to me, to be honest, I don't consider myself a board designer. I'm more like a board ripper. That's why Miroverse is my best friend, secret weapon. But generally, I try to find simple boards, things that can can help people contribute in less than 10 minutes. That's why I like to go into boards that are simple, that is easily picked up. So things like business model canvas. I think there are two designs right now, which I remember picking up just a couple of hours ago. One's a little bit more complex. The other one had an example on how to use it, which I think when I first introduced the board, I said we're going to use it. They already look at the example. Oh, this is how I fill up the boxes within this business model canvas. So they really went to work. So these are the kinds of things I would pick up within a board that I choose in Miroverse. So yeah, that's something I look out for. But for my own, I don't have time to design my own board. I really should be doing that, but it's just not to. I just go for the practical route right now. Yeah. James, Martin?
Yeah, I'm always trying to think about the end user, the participant or the team member, right? And really come back to the fundamental about how people learn, how they learn together, how you discover, how you process information, and just build from that.
So I think it's being empathetic to their experience. Yeah. I think there's a question. James, yes.
Now, folks, I agree a little bit with Amir. You know, like you could see from my board, it's like I just try to keep it as simple as possible. You know, I don't do the kind of things that Chris has done with this very complex board. I think we have to be humble in the sense of understanding that there's never enough time. You always whatever you put on the board, you will run out of time. But that would be my sense. Is be much more humble in terms of what you can get done in the time that you think. I've got to unfortunately drop off. It's been a huge pleasure sharing with you. I've popped my LinkedIn details. I'd love to connect with all of you. Isman, thanks for the invitation. Always wonderful working with you. And take care, folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one last question. Let's ask one more. I think Timothy has a question early on.
I think I just want to respond to Aries because I think that's such a great question, actually. And I want to share from a learning experience design, especially I think what you're concerning about is learners' cognitive overload, right? Which is happening very easily if they go into the board and then they see the whole shebang of so many things going on. And I'm actually still testing this idea of hiding some part of the board and only scaffold it slowly as we go along to the session. So I'm running one tomorrow, and right now I'm trying to hide the major discussion board, which looks really complicated. And so I just hide it and I wait until maybe the second half of the session, and then I unfold it. So that's where I think we can kind of minimize the cognitive overload. I just want to respond to that. Yeah.
No, that's a great strategy or tactic as well, right? It's kind of like it's like in show business, right? You don't show everything right up front, but you can slowly build up the suspense, and voila.